The Final Bottle, Crime and Whispers in New York. The Secret Beneath the Water. New York City, 2023. In the outskirts of Manhattan, inside a luxurious villa, a woman made a trembling call early in the morning. They came back. This time they threatened my son. The call was received by Detective Markson Craig, one of the best in the NYPD. A 42-year-old veteran with 17 years of service. His loyal partner was Luisa Velasquez, a sharp-minded woman with short hair and unmatched analytical thinking. "Is it the Lovelace Gang again?" Luisa asked, flipping through a stack of thin folders. "Yes, but this time they left a clue," Markson replied. They had found a strange bottle at the home of Gerald Stanley, a millionaire auto parts tycoon. Inside the bottle was not water, but a pale liquid, and scrawled on the glass in blood-red paint was a chilling message. Level 5, Room 7. You didn't forget us. We won't forget you. Code 314K. The bottle's message. This wasn't just a bottle, it was a warning. Level and room likely referred to New York's old underground system, filled with sealed-off tunnels and long-abandoned metro stations. Ideal hideouts for criminals. Markson and Luisa descended into the dark depths of an unused fifth-level station. Dust and decay coated the walls, and a thick silence filled the air. Behind a crumbling brick wall, they discovered a horrifying sight. A skeleton, encased in concrete. Its hand was frozen in a pocket, clutching a note with the same code, 314K. A mole in the department. The deeper the investigation went, the more they realized someone inside the police department was leaking information. Every move they made was somehow anticipated. Markson began suspecting even his closest colleagues. One name stood out, Captain Roger Miller, a respected figure, but records revealed that he had been falsifying certain reports and tampering with internal logs. One night, Markson found a warning card under his front door. "Do you want to enter that room too? Level 6 is waiting for you." The trap and the truth. Markson devised a trap. He leaked false information about a Level 6 drop-off, hoping the mole would act on it. That night, Officer Mandy Howard was caught sneaking into the same underground section with encrypted files. Around her neck hung a USB drive. On it were shocking videos, secret meetings between city leaders and high-ranking police officers discussing bribes, corruption, and illegal internal promotions. The so-called Lovelace Gang was not an enemy. It was a creation, an invention of those in power to justify crime sweeps while secretly enriching themselves. A fight for integrity. Markson and Luisa sent the evidence to the FBI under deep cover. Within days, the entire department was under review. Several top officers were dismissed or arrested. But the storm wasn't over. Markson was forced to transfer to another city for his safety. The threats didn't stop, but one thing never changed. My job is truth, and the truth never stays buried. Echoes in the tunnel. The media frenzy erupted just days after the arrests. Headlines like "Police Scandal Rocks NYPD" and "Underground Network of Power Revealed" blanketed every news outlet. But Markson Craig wasn't celebrating. He knew better than anyone. When one head is cut off, two more appear. The skeleton they'd found was identified as Detective Henry Brill, a missing officer presumed dead since 2008. He'd been investigating the same underground rings before vanishing without a trace. A digital voice recorder was found lodged deep within his jacket, corroded but partially recoverable. The audio was chilly. "Ing, they've bought out judges, even city officials. If I disappear, it won't be by accident. Check room 7. Trust no one, not even our owl." And the tape became Exhibit A in a grand jury indictment. But Markson couldn't sleep. If Henry's words were true, it meant that the corruption went beyond the NYPD. It went into City Hall. The whisper broker, FBI agent Clarice Mendez, a former cybercrimes investigator turned field agent, was assigned to work with Markson and Luisa. She carried herself with quiet intensity, her eyes sharp like she had already memorized everyone's weaknesses. Clarice revealed something staggering. Encrypted text messages between Captain Miller and a mysterious contact labeled Bishop. This bishop had wired nearly $2 million through offshore accounts and had connections to multiple unsolved crimes across New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York. They didn't know if Bishop was one man or a co-name for a group. But they knew this: Bishop was still active. Markson looked at the final line from the last decrypted MES. Sage. Initiate phase gamma. Level 8 must be sealed permanently. Witness identified: L. Velasquez. Use. Luisa. The decoy operation. That night, Luisa's apartment was raided. Thankfully, she wasn't home. Markson had taken her in after seeing the threat. Inside her apartment, however, the police found a planted hard drive filled with fake financial records, meant to make her look like she was laundering money. It was a clear setup. But from whom? Clarice narrowed it down. A forged warrant had been pushed through by Judge Kenneth Rollman, known for his lenient treatment of white-collar criminals. Clarice and Markson confronted him, but Rollman had already fled. He was last seen boarding a private plane to the Cayman Islands. Markson clenched his fists. They're trying to erase us, and they're getting bold ABO. UT it. Level 8 wasn't on any map. It was a myth, an urban legend passed between subway workers and janitors, a place that supposedly predated modern infrastructure. But Clarice found blueprints from 1904 in the archives of the Metropolitan Transit Authority. It confirmed the existence of a hidden platform beneath Lower Manhattan, a platform built during the Spanish flu pandemic, once used to quarantine infected passengers, and long since sealed off. They went in at night. Flashlights, silence, tension. The air was thicker there. The smell of rot lingered. They walked over rusted rails and splintered wooden ties, past a graffiti-covered wall, until they found a massive iron door, welded shut. Luisa ran her fingers across, something scratched into T. He metal. 314K. Inside the iron room, Clarice used a battery-powered torch to slice through the seal. Inside was silence, dust, bones, and dozens of open boxes filled with old hard drives, surveillance tapes, and cash, neatly vacuum-sealed. They had stumbled into what looked like a cold storage unit for blackmail material. Tapes of politicians in compromising situations, bribe deals, secret meetings, even AV, HS labeled. Mayor Vincent, 09, room 6. Clarice carefully packed everything. "We need to get out of here," she whispered. "Now." But it was too late. The sound of boots on gravel echoed through the tunnels. They were no longer alone. The ambush beneath Manhattan. As the torchlight flickered against the mold-covered walls, Markson raised his hand, signaling everyone to go silent. The footsteps grew louder. Slow, deliberate, the kind that didn't care if they were heard. Clarice quickly shut her case and clicked off the flashlight. Luisa ducked behind a rusted control panel while Markson drew his sidearm. From the shadows of the tunnel emerged two figures, dressed in black, faces covered, wearing tactical gear without insignias. They weren't police. They weren't FBI. They were ghosts. One of them whispered into a throat mic. The other raised a sleek, suppressed weapon and began sweeping the room with infrared. Markson knew they were dead men if they hesitated. He mouthed 3, 2, before 1. Luisa rolled a rusty gear onto the tracks, creating a loud clang. One of the intruders turned in reflex. Bang! Clarice fired once, straight through the head. The second one fired back blindly, grazing Markson's arm. He dove for cover, returned fire, and hit the second man in the leg, then the chest. The tunnel fell into dead silence again. They had no time. Markson pressed a rag against his bleeding arm. They know we're down here, and they weren't here to warn us. They were here to erase us. Luisa checked the fallen men's gear. Unmarked weapons, burner phones, and an encrypted sat phone with just one new. Burlap, Eld, Bishop, safe house shadows. They knew they couldn't go back to the precinct, especially not after Judge Rollman's disappearance. Clarice led them to an old FBI safe house in Brooklyn Heights, under her name from years ago. Inside the dim apartment, a map of New York's oldest subway tunnels was pinned to the wall. Clarice poured whiskey over Markson's wound and stitched it herself. He barely flinched. Luisa connected the sat phone to a signal scrambler and attempted a trace. The number bounced off multiple towers, redirecting through Belarus, then Qatar, then back to upstate New York. A classic triangulation loop. But Cleric, he had a theory. Bishop isn't just a person. He's a title, a controller. And whoever's playing Bishop now is operating from inside the state's own systems. Markson looked at the evidence they'd collected, footage, bank transfers, blackmail records. If released, it could start political fires across the country. But then Clarice found something even more disturbing. A scanned birth certificate. Name, Ana Velasquez. Status, deceased in 1997. Luisa dropped her coffee. Our hands trembled. That's my twin sister. I thought she died in childbirth. My mother spoke of her. But someone had used Anna's identity in 2012 to register a shell company called Auro Security Group, one of Bishop's laundering fronts. The shell company. Markson, Luisa, and Clarice drove to a corporate building registered to Auro Security Group on the outskirts of Albany. On paper, it was listed as a cyber risk management firm. In reality, it was a ghost location. Locked. Deserted. But someone had been there recently. They broke in through a side panel. Inside was a minimalist office, whiteboards, a server rack still warm, coffee cups in the trash. Whoever ran it had fled in a hurry. Clarice booted up one of the still-connected terminals. Luisa scanned through user access. Logs. There it was. User. A.vel/admin access level/last. Login. 6 hours ago. Clarice froze. That's not just a ghost account. Someone's actively posing as your sister, Luisa. Or worse, she may not be dead at all. Files began rapidly deleting on the screen. They're wiping the system remotely. Clarice shouted. They copied what they could, just fragments, project names like Deep Seed, Gamma Choke, and One Chilling. Phrase over and over. Level 9 is not safe. Initiate blackout protocol. Then the screen went black. Media war. Clarice contacted an old friend, Logan Pruitt, an independent journalist for the Epic Mirror, known for exposing Pentagon scandals. Logan was skeptical at first, but when Clarice showed him the footage of city officials caught in blackmail schemes and the Level 8 archive, he and RLY dropped his camera. This story could shut down half of New York's institutions, he said. But it could LSO get us all killed. Logan agreed to help. He would begin with a leak, one safe video, a clip showing Captain Miller receiving cash from a man linked to the Lovelace Gang. The video hit the internet at 7:12 p.m. By 7:45 p.m., Captain Miller was found dead in his car, apparent suicide. But Markson knew the signs. Gun in right hand. Miller was left-handed. He'd been silenced. And now the message was clear. Whoever controlled the system didn't just erase secrets. They erased people. The Bishop revealed. One fragment of the Auro server files contained a real address, an unlisted warehouse in Rochester, New York. Markson didn't wait. They packed up their gear, loaded the flash drives, and left before midnight. The warehouse was hidden beneath an abandoned brewery. Inside were steel doors, biometric scanners, and motion sensors. Clarice hacked the locks. Behind one of them, a sleek office greeted them. Glass walls, dark leather chairs, and a long table with chess pieces arranged mid-game. A shadow moved at the end of the room. A man emerged, tall, early 60s, sharp blue eyes, weary. In a tailored black suit. Detective Markson. Agent Velasquez. Agent Mendez, he greeted calmly. Welcome. I've been expecting you. Clarice raised her weapon. Who the hell are you? He smiled. You may call me Bishop. Or, if you prefer names, Dominic Hale. Former Deputy Director of Homeland Security. Retired officially. But some of us never really retire. I've kept every installment long, twist-rich, and crucial to the overarching plot so each would fill at least a printed page. Chessboard of threats. Dominic Hale, alias Bishop, stood at the head of the glass-walled office, fingers poised above the ivory king on his chessboard. Sit, he murmured, as if speaking to colleagues rather than trespassers. Markson's eyes swept the room. Two recessed ceiling turrets tracked their heat signatures, remote safeties, one pressure trigger from shredding them. Hale's calm unnerved Luisa more than any drawn gun. He began detailing their biographies with eerie precision. Childhood streets, first arrests made, Clarice's unpublished thesis. He even cited the lullaby Luisa's mother used to sing. Understand, he said, I do not traffic in petty crime. I maintain equilibrium. New York remains solvent because certain sins stay hidden. Clarice countered, you're blackmailing half the city so you can play God. Hale glided a bishop piece forward. Wrong metaphor. I play librarian. I file dangerous volumes where no one unschooled can read them. Markson placed the sat phone on the table. Two of your ghosts are dead. Their helmets recorded everything. He pressed play. Body cam footage of the ambush in level 8. The order to clean the archive. In Hale's own voice. Hale's jaw tensed a millimeter. Silence stretched. Finally, Hale slid a sealed envelope across the board. Inside is proof you're superior. Chief Morales, laundered pandemic aid. You'll confirm it's genuine. Trade my letter for your evidence and walk away. The city survives. You survive. Markson refused. Turrets hummed to life. Clarice shot the nearest lens. Luisa fired at the control panel. Lights died, sprinklers hissed, and from darkness Hale's voice echoed. Well then, detective check. Warehouse inferno. Emergency strobes bathed corridors in red. Hale vanished through a rear passage as concussion charges detonated, crippling exits. Flames licked paper-filled filing cabinets. Markson, bleeding from debris, shouted for Clarice and Luisa to retreat. They hauled servers, still warm, from the rack, yanking cables as sprinkler water rained. Clarice jimmied a trap door leading into a disused beer-shipping tunnel. Smoke chased them through brick catacombs until they emerged beneath a frozen canal. Behind them, the brewery collapsed in a plume of fire. Hale had erased another chapter, but not before Clarice salvaged 4 drive platters wrapped in anti-static sleeves. Above ground, sirens converged. Markson phoned Logan Pruitt, ordering him to live stream at Pier 14 in 1 hour. If anyone tried to silence them again, it would be in front of thousands. Pier 14 broadcast. Night wind whipped cameras as Logan opened a secure stream on 5 mirrored sites. Markson, his arm in a WLY bandaged, addressed viewers. We have evidence of systemic corruption within the NYPD, City Hall, and federal liaisons. Should this feed cut copies? Auto-upload to 80 servers. Clarice revealed documents linking pandemic funds to shell nonprofits. Luisa displayed stills of Captain Miller accepting bribes, highlighting time, stamps, matching his official alibis. 250,000 watched live. Hashtags exploded. Yet, 30 minutes in, the piers suffered a rolling blackout, engineered. 3 SUVs screeched up. Mercenaries in matte gear advanced. Logan kept streaming as gunfire erupted. Markson dragged the journalist to cover while Luisa picked off tires with precision shots. Clarice triggered a flare to mark their position for responding state troopers secretly alerted by her earlier beacon. Within minutes, police sirens, uncorrupted divisions, hemmed the mercenaries. Some fled into the river, others were cuffed. One wounded gunman carried a phone showing a single text from Bishop, Phase Delta failed. Initiate Plan V. Hostage. Shadows over Hudson General. The mercenaries' getaway intel indicated the next strike. Hudson General Hospital. Clarice's informant whispered that Hale intended to seize Dr. Nadia Singh, virologist and key whistleblower on the diverted pandemic funds. Nadia was under protective custody, but Hale's infiltration teams posed as FEMA auditors. Markson commandeered an ambulance, lights dark, and rushed the team uptown. Inside Hudson General, Clarice spotted suspicious men rerouting elevators. Gunfire echoed through pediatric oncology before Markson tackled the lead imposter. During the melee, an oxygen tank ruptured, setting off alarms. Luisa escorted Dr. Singh down a stairwell only to confront a lanky figure, face obscured, who whispered, "Luisa, stop." The voice was Anna Velasquez, the twin sister pronounced dead. Anna aimed AP. Istall but hesitated, eyes welling. They said you'd understand. I'm not the villain. Security lights flashed. Anna vanished in the confusion, leaving Luisa shattered and determined to uncover how her SI Stir lived and who controlled her. Courtroom siege. The state convened an emergency grand jury hearing at the James L. Carter Federal Courthouse, sealing it from public view. Clarice and Markson delivered hard drives to prosecutor Evelyn Cho, known for dismantling mafia families. But Cho warned them. A sitting federal judge, Elena Rayburn, surfaced in evidence as Hale's early benefactor. If Rayburn presided, motions would vanish. On arraignment morning, Rayburn indeed assumed the bench. Before Cho could object, alarms blared. Bomb threat, evacuation ordered. In a lobby, men in fire marshal coats hustled Rayburn away, too efficiently. Markson recognized one coat insignia from the Level 8 mercenaries. He pursued, vaulting barricades. Outside, Rayburn was loaded into an armored limo. Markson shot a tire. The limo fishtailed, slamming a hydrant. Rayburn fled into a subway. Stairwell. Underground, she pleaded. I was coerced by Bishop Prime. Hale isn't alone. She surrendered encrypted. Keys naming cabinet-level officials. Double Bishop. Forensic decryption of Rayburn's keys exposed two signatures. Bishop, Dominic Hale, and Bishop Prime, identity unknown, communicating via an air-gapped quantum node nicknamed Eidolon. Hale, it seemed, answered upward. Clarice traced Eidolon to a data farm beneath an abandoned Cold War radar silo in rural Pennsylvania. Markson assembled a covert strike with trusted state trooper Captain Rosa Madrigal. Using storm cover, they parachuted near the silo at 3 a.m. Inside, rows of chilled racks pulsed blue. Drones patrolled aisles. Clarice hacked the mesh network, looping camera feeds. They reached a vault containing a single chair, VR headset dangling, and used. Console logs indicated remote sessions from Washington, D.C. IP blocks. Markson planted C4-shaped charges, Clarice clone drives. Before exfiltration, a recorded message autoplayed. Congratulations, Detective. Level 9 awaits in the Capitol. Then the silo self-sealed. Countdown commenced. They sprinted up the ladder as blasts reverberated, the shockwave hurling them into a snowbank. But alive with Eidolon's core files. Capitol confrontations. Back in D.C., congressional committees convened. Logan leaked sanitized pieces. Public uproar forced hearings. Clarice and Luisa, now deputized as special federal witnesses, revealed contracts linking Arrow Security Group to the Department of Homeland Security's Emergency Procurement Office, signed by Undersecretary Philip Garner. Garner denied knowledge until confronted with video from Level 8 showing him accepting a briefcase. He invoked the fifth, plunging proceedings into chaos. Outside, crowds chanted for resignations. Inside, Markson noticed a lone figure high in the gallery. Dominic Hale, unflustered, observing. Marshals raced, but Hale stepped behind a pillar and disappeared. On his vacated seat lay a chess knight with a coded inscription, VX 977. Clarice deciphered. Flight number. Departure tonight from Reagan National to Zurich. Runway reckoning. With border stop orders issued, Hale still boarded VX 977 using diplomatic credentials. Markson and Luisa raced to the tarmac in an unmarked vehicle, storming the jetway moments before pushback. Inside, first-class passengers panicked as Markson confronted Hale. Hale calmly raised empty hands. Detective, extradition is futile. I carry secrets that would cripple your markets. Luisa cuffed him anyway. But mid-taxi, cockpit alarms erupted. Remote autopilot hack. Runway collision imminent. Hale smirked. Bishop Prime signing off. Air traffic halted all movement. Cybersecurity teams regained control. The flight aborted. Hale's leverage evaporated. He was transported to Blackgate Federal Detention, a fortress seldom breached. Yet, from his cell, Hale smiled at news reports. Anna Velasquez arrested? No. The live feed showed her fleeing an FBI convoy on Pennsylvania Avenue.